I have a few questions for you that I'm
Sure.
hoping that you're willing to answer. First, where in the region of the world are you from?
Far away from everything that's Tomb Raider centric, I guess. Poland, out of all places, Central Europe. Yeah, this is when I've been born, and this is where I've lived all my life.
What are the origins of you finding Tomb Raider or Tomb Raider finding you?
Gosh, that was a long time ago. I was around 14, 15 years of age. It was way before internet and stuff like that, so I had no YouTube or anything like it. I was aware of games existing. I was like playing Nintendo stuff, like the Super Nintendo, and I think I had the old Amiga and stuff like that, but never really anything 3D. Everything was rather old school. And then, like, my dad, I think he borrowed it from a colleague at work. It was a disc with Tomb Raider 4, Last Revelation. My understanding of English was a lot lower than it is now. I had no idea about accents, how they work. I didn't understand the full story. I was just like lost in the dark. I had no point of reference, no knowledge, and tutorial in Last Revelation is not really helpful. It doesn't have the Lara's home where you feel safe. No, you can die. There are spikes, there are boars that will attack you. Like, excuse me, why am I being tossed like in the middle of chaos? But it was, it captivated me from the very start, because for once it was a 3D game, fully 3D game, fully realized. I had to figure out what to do and how to pass the game without solutions, without YouTube, without walkthroughs, nothing. And it took me ages. I don't remember, but it definitely took me more than a year to actually do from start to finish. And there were periods of time when I'm so stuck, I'm just giving up. But on the other hand, I woke up in the middle of the night and turned on my computer in the middle of the night so everyone's asleep. They don't know, and I'm still trying to get through that section. I remember Cairo was probably the place where I spent the most time. It took me just forever to actually pass through it, but I did, and I was so proud of myself when I finally finished the game. I just didn't understand half of the stuff, and then it all started. I was hungry for more, and then I had Tomb Raider 3, and then I had 2 and 1, so I kind of went backwards from 4 to 1. They all captivated me in a way because they all have the very similar formula of like exploring, being alone, being isolated. That is something that I absolutely always liked. I think my mom says that from the youngest child, even in like kindergarten and stuff, I was like a nursery. That it's gonna be a problem because he's a very much of a loner. The lady from there was just like, there was a stigma of a loner being the isolated child and is gonna have issues with in the future. I never had issues of feeling alone, even if I was like the lonely kid at school that hang out on their own. But Lara was actually giving me the confidence that it's okay. It's okay to be alone and do your stuff and focus on the stuff that's actually empowering you. And actually that got stuck with me so much that I'm still in love with the franchise until I'm right now 37 years of age.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And how and when did you start building?
My building came with Chronicles. When I got the Chronicles disc, it had the game, and then it had the second disc in an envelope. The editor was just plain editor, and I started to dabble with it because oh my god, I can build my own levels. The editor was atrocious back then. The first edition was incompatible with half of the Windows systems. It kept crashing, losing your progress, but I kept going. I never released anything back then. There was nothing really much developed. I was just trying to learn how to combine rooms. There was internet over there back then, so our first Polish website, TRLE.pl, was actually the full source of level editor games. Everything that was in TRLE.net was actually uploaded there, and we had our own repository of all those levels that were released. And then a few years later, the page was shut down, and some of the people actually created LaraCroft.pl that I'm sometimes helping out with articles and stuff like that. So I took a long break. I didn't touch it because I was like, oh my god, starting from scratch, I don't remember anything. And for years I was just like playing level editors. There was always like something at the back of my head, like I want to go back to it, I want to try it. And I did last year, the beginning of the year, when I heard that the editor has been re-evolved, people have been modifying it, like changing it quite significantly. And I started, I think I was doing a level that was kind of like a visualization of a story of a novel I've been writing, and I started building that in, I think it was NGLE engine. And then I've heard about TR10, so the Tomb engine, and I joined the Discord on the community of 10 development team who they set up their own Discord. You can ask them questions, figure stuff out. I started to ask them, they showed me. I was like, okay, I don't understand, can you show me? And stuff, and they were very helpful. Kabzi and the other guys are just so super helpful. I can't imagine like even thinking I've made a level that is releasable if it wasn't for them playtesting it, checking every free every little bit of what I've came up with. So it was fun, and I have to say I'm hopeful that I'll manage to get some time to actually get back to it and work on something else.
Fantastic. How many levels have you released?
Well, it's only modest 2 levels, but surprisingly they were kind of well received. I'm kind of shocked, considering that those were my literally first levels that actually have a start, something happening in the middle, and they have a finish of sorts. Like, okay, I started with something that I thought was going to be easier, and I think this is where a lot of builders have actually gone through the Croft Manor. But I always loved the TR3 Croft Manor, and I wanted to like build upon it, like make it as a foundation, and I found like there was available just the geometry, like the rooms, the rooms connected. No textures, no objects, no lava inside it, so I textured everything from scratch using the textures that are available online on the building website. And I just tried to think, what would I like to see in it? You know, it's one thing I always wanted to build is a level that I would like to play myself, that I would enjoy playing it, that it wouldn't be annoyingly, obnoxiously difficult, you know. And I always wanted to like emphasize on some of the adventures that I thought that, you know, could happen, something believable within like what I consider canon in Tomb Raider is like the core design version of it. So obviously I will always try to like make it, okay, this is something that core could release. It's not going to be like super up there. I know that I'm still learning, I'm still not perfect about it, but amounts of tweaks I've gone through Croft Manor. I remember the original version, but Jesus, like I remember the original, how I tried like to make sure that like the soundtrack changes as you change a proper room. So you go to the pool house, it has the different soundtrack for like main manor. The outside has a different soundtrack, and I wanted to make sure that it works always the way I want it to, so it's not reliant on triggers and stuff. Sometimes just people forget about placing a trigger, and it's fine. Like we are all learning. This is still like no one is a perfect developer. Well, maybe outside of, well, to be honest, Gecko is just amazing. I don't think he could build a flawed level, honestly. I think he has such a creative mind that I'm just always amazed by anything he's built, he's going to create. But yeah, we are all learning. We are all self-taught. It's not like we've been professionally taught to build Tomb Raider, right? We are fans. We're doing this from the love of the franchise. So it's always like, try to build something that vibes with us.
Absolutely.
It's so many levels.
Do you have other builders that you admire in addition to Gecko?
Gecko is amazing. I love of course T-Tag's levels, like the Himalayan mysteries. In my head, it's a canon story about what happens in the Himalayas when Lara becomes the hardened Tomb Raider that later on we knew. I think it's brilliant. And Mr. Avalon, I'm waiting for part 2. I'm so excited. I don't remember the nickname because he only released War of the Worlds, but Mateusz, I know him because he actually consulted me with the translations and dialogues. But the way he built War of the Worlds, I'm like, wow, that was such an ambitious project that actually works. I'm bowing to it because he even recreated stuff from like other franchises like The Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn. There are elements from so many games and franchises that are out there, and they're big. They really look breathtaking. There's so many people out there. Leok, who does the Folklorer's Diary series. I just love those. I love the first one that was done in the Tier 1 engine. I know he's doing different versions, but I absolutely love it. I have huge respect for Sabat. I would love to be able to build levels as fast and as competently, like locations, the geometry, the environment, the way he builds them. They are so breathtaking. It's like how to make Tomb Raider Underworld's epicness, the size of it, and put it into Tomb Raider level editor, because this is the scope he's aiming for. Like I remember some of the reimagined locations from TR1 that I was like, holy hell, how did he build all this? Like I know how the editor works from inside, like how sometimes really difficult is putting a huge room together and like fill it with water, crikey. And you have to remember about the limitations of the engine, limitation of the distance that can be drawn, and all those kinds of elements that, wow, I'm just like, whenever he builds the next level, I even watch them and I learn from him a lot. I love his approach. I immediately understood the storytelling he's doing with Tomb Raider 1, and I talked with him on a stream, and he confirmed that my assumptions were right. I understood him, and I'm like, oh my god, this is exactly what I would have done. But yeah, there's just loads of people.
Kris, where can people find you, and where can people find your levels? I know you stream on Twitch.
I do occasionally. Whenever I have a moment, I try to stream on Twitch. I do have a YouTube channel, which is more like an archive for my streaming. But I do have a Twitter. All of this is labeled under the name Kris Nephilim, so if you type it, you'll definitely find me. I do have a page on trcustoms.org where my 2 release levels, Craft Manor Revised. And then I wanted to take my take on like Lara finding Pandora's Box. So Pandora's Box is also there. Still available for free, so anyone can play them. Reviews have been coming in every now and then. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so scared. And then it turns out that people like them. I'm like, it kind of builds up the confidence a little bit when I read those reviews, so it's fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. I look forward to having everybody hear your story.
I don't know. I'm a beginner. I'm a noob. I have huge respect for everyone who's been working and the people who are actually making the level editor engine and working on better versions. I'm just so excited that we are getting this new revised interest in Tomb Raider thanks to the remasters, and people are asking about with the other games, and you can actually tell them that there is like fan-made levels which are so amazing. It's a renaissance for Tomb Raider. I'm hoping that it's gonna keep on going and keep on developing.
I hope so too.